Hi, I'm Adam Cortell. Welcome to Garden Chatter. We bring gardeners, bloggers, and experts together so we can all grow and learn. Today we have a great couple of guests we'll get to later. Right now, though, just what we're talking about is why do we garden? What motivates us, and how can we get others to get motivated and get into gardening? If you are joining this chatter live and you want to leave a comment, go ahead and look at the top right of your screen. There'll be a little box with like a 3x3 grid there, and click that and you should get a question and answer box that you can click, and then it'll show up on the bottom of your screen. We'd love to hear from you. Well, Bren, how are you?
Hey, I have to tell you, I'm really nervous because these are two of my most favorite garden writers and gardeners. Every time I click on their websites or follow them on Twitter, I always learn something new about gardening. So we have with us today Emily of PassThePistol.com and Christy of GardenNerd.com. Maybe can you guys share where your gardens are located?
You want to start, Christy?
Sure. I am in Los Angeles, in Southern California, and we have rain today, which is a joyous occasion.
That's wonderful. Emily Murphy. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I also garden up in the mountains in the Sierra Nevada. So I have a full range of USDA hardiness zones, and it provides a bit of challenge, but it's wonderful.
Well, I didn't know you were gardening in two different locations like that. That does create some challenges. I was wondering just about a little bit, if you could tell a bit about yourselves and how you got inspired to start gardening, or a little bit of your story of how you ended up where you're at now. Christy, how about you? Where did you get started with the gardening bug?
I started gardening. I grew up, gardening with my parents, but it really didn't mean anything until around 1993. I became a vegetarian, and that's where the awareness of like what's going on with our food system happened, and I wanted to take back control over my food. So I started growing as much as I could on a balcony and a patio, and then moved to LA and signed up for a community garden and got a plot there. So I'm growing in small spaces, and now I also have, in addition to my community garden, I have my home garden, which is also pretty small. It's 12 by 17, and I grow about 70% of our produce year-round from those two spots, and some pots I'm kind of spilling over and taking over as much of the art as I can. But that, my main motivation for gardening was really coming from a health perspective and wanting to arrest control back over what's happening with our food.
How about you, Emily?
Oh, this could be a question that could take me quite a long time to answer, so I'll just sum it up. I'm sure that my story is not that different from so many others that find themselves being compelled to garden and grow things. And I was fortunate enough, privileged enough to grow up in a family of farmers and gardeners, and I think almost by osmosis, I just absorbed all the things they had to teach me, and then I found myself actually in 5th grade, believe it or not, with a teacher that was amazing, and I gardened with her, and I think that's where it sort of all gelled and came together, and studied botany in college, environmental science. I'm a tree hugger through and through. I love landscapes and habitats, and I really think of gardening and what I do with gardening as my connection to nature and creating habitats, whether that be for food or flowers or for pollinators, which led me to study garden design and then start blogging. But it's one of those onions that is many layered, and and quite lovely. So I feel very lucky to have had those opportunities early on, which is why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. That's really exciting. I have a couple of people who are following us on Twitter, and they are just questioning. So if you want to leave a question for Emily or Christy, or if you'd like to just say hey, if you click up on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little grid on that Google Hangout, and when you click that, you'll see where you can click question and answer and shout out to us. We'd love to hear from you. So ladies, I have a question for you. What do you get out of gardening? Can you put that into words? Maybe we'll start with Christy.
I get so much out of gardening. It's you know, I always say weeding is therapeutic, and it is. You go, and when I go to my community garden plot, or whether I'm outside in the backyard, it's another world. It takes me out of my well, it gives my hands something to do while the brain works out all the stuff that needs to be worked out. And for me, it's incredibly gratifying to grow something from seed to harvest and make something with it and be like, I did that, you know. So it's fun, and it's all part of the big homesteading picture for me, because we have chickens, we have bees. We're trying to live as lightly on the planet as possible, and it just makes sense. It just feels so good to be doing all of these things. And I'm going to wax rhapsodic about seeds, because that's our future, that's our freedom, and having seeds that we can save over and over again and not have to pay anybody for, that's a big deal to me. I really think that's one of the coolest things about gardening, that there are heirloom and open pollinated varieties that you can't patent, and we get to save them and grow them out forever.
Awesome. Emily?
That's pretty cool. Right back at Christy. That's awesome. Yeah. Gardening, I get the seed. I've been pondering seeds lately, actually. I think every year around this time when I go to collect seeds and save them, you kind of realize the depth and magnitude that seeds have to offer, that in this one little seed you have this baby plant waiting to grow and pass on life from one season to the next. It's pretty beautiful. But I guess, I mean, you could come at gardening from so many different directions, and when I start to sort of sum it up, I think of, so I guess backing up a little bit, when I decided to start writing my blog, I had decided, what is it that I really love? What is it in my life I'd like to cultivate? And Pass the Pistol came into being, but really, it's cultivating. Gardening to me is cultivating life. It's cultivating those things I love, which is that connection to plants, and I think that's so deep rooted in all of us as people that we gravitate towards things that are living, other living things, towards growing things, having that sense of productivity where at the end of the day we realize, I did that moment, I grew that, I love that. And or just even tending something. So it could be food, but it also could be, tending plants that mean so much to you, plants for fragrance or plants for flowers that maybe those are the plants your grandmother grew, or brings back some memory, or it's a plant from your home. Maybe you no longer live in the place you grew up, but it's something that reminds you of something really special, and it fills our lives in a way that nothing else can, because it's this living, we're cultivating life that can't be compared in any other forum, really. Which sort of, my mantra, grow what you love, has all those components of bringing community and family and friends together. The garden is really the place where all of it begins. So before the kitchen is the garden. We grow our food in our garden, or we have places where we spend time together, and and we just be together, or we experience nature, find new bugs and really cool things, worms of ginormous proportion. So, it has this unending ability to touch us. So I think that's why I keep going back, because it's so lovely.
You both talked about seeds. I've been saving seeds this week. I'm so happy I finally, I was so busy the last few years with everything, being a mom and, taking care of the property. But I actually saved some of those Mexican sunflower seeds. And when you said little flowers, these things get huge. These are like 6 feet tall. And I love them because the deer stay away from them. So I want to plant these everywhere, right?
Right plant, the right place. I love that.
You both explained so well, so lovely, the way that gardening inspires you. I think I have a lot of the same, like just growing up on a kind of a homestead, and we had a family garden and a nursery, and I think I just got kind of imbued with that, love for growing things. And right now I'm at this point where I'm looking at how much I actually produce to bring to the table, and I'm thinking, well, it's really still kind of a pittance, in the big scheme of things. So I really want to ramp that up and try to, grow a lot more that we eat. So Emily, you teach kids gardening, and I'm just kind of curious about, for kids that don't have that exposure to a farm or a garden at home, or the grandparents that have that when they go visit. How do you see that as far as giving kids opportunities to engage in gardening? And maybe you could tell just a little bit about what you're up to with your school teaching there.
Yeah, so I teach very part-time in a school garden. I run a school garden. I've run a couple of gardens, so I've had an opportunity to see how different schools operate and manage a garden so that it's successful and that it integrates into the curriculum, which is key. But no matter how schools operate their garden, in the end, the students react to the space the same. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure, but we're at an age where students rely more and more on their experiences at school to round out their life experiences, not just their education. And parents don't always have time to spend with their children in the garden. And even if they do, I really feel that children, people in general, but children truly benefit from more time in nature. And they found that people in general, when they spend time in nature, it actually improves cognitive abilities. It elevates your mood. Children, people who get their hands in soil, that it actually releases serotonin and can reduce anxiety and just turn us on all together. And so for a child to be able to come to the garden, say in the middle of the day for a class, is a very special experience, and it also is one, I think, that enhances their education. And some of the things that I do in the garden are directly related to curriculum, and other things I do in the garden are just for the experience, where I'm teaching kids to wonder, and I'm teaching kids to ask questions and experience the world around them in a way that they might not otherwise, where I ask a lot of questions, and I and then I model what I'd like to see. Where so we might be teaching how to plant something. I might be teaching something about seeds, or I might be doing a very scientific study on say root development in certain plants. But at the same time, if I see certain behaviors in kids where and I might be going off tangent, but say I have a number of students who really don't like spiders. That's my opportunity to teach those kids about spiders and understand those spiders as this critical component to our food web and our garden web. And so we go out and we ask the question, how do I find a spider? And we end up unraveling that question to, well, we have to look for the garden spider's home. And we go on from there, and before I know it, I have these same students who are otherwise would rather not want to spend time with spiders, really, enthralled and enthusiastic about the animals they found and the homes they found and how diverse they are. And that's just one example of an experience that can happen, but it's pretty amazing. I mean, there are students, of course, that come to the garden that they're not ready for it, and there's other kids who come and soak every bit up, and you can tell that it's changing their lives, which is pretty special.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've taught second grade for years, and as much as I could, find the time and get kids out there, we would plant seeds in the garden and our inside too. They just love it. I mean, it's just the best thing. You mentioned that kids weren't getting out enough. I don't know if you've read this book, The Last Child in the Woods.
That's cool.
How detached are, in our society, that kids just are not, they don't play outside enough.
Right. Even just giving them a place to dig. I mean, if you put a group of second graders in front of a bed that's just soil, and you say, okay, we're going to dig now, we're going to look for animals in the soil, it's wild how exciting it is. And I mean, why wouldn't you just want to dig in the soil? Of course you do. So.
And of course they do.
Yeah.
So we were just doing that about a while ago. They were so excited about the roots and we found some worms. I mean, it's just like they've never discovered that before.
Right.
Some of them. So.
Roly-polies and millipedes and all the no-see-ums that are in there.
So our friend from Twitter, Beth Billstrom, is on, and she is asking Emily, hey, have you read Your Brain on Nature? She just loves that book and the approach.
Oh, I haven't read that, but I'm going to write that down. Hold on, Beth. I'm so excited. I wish I could see you too. Okay. Your brain.
It's so fun. It's so fun hearing you guys talk about the younger kids. Adam working with the younger kids. I'm a mom of teenagers, and I will admit that being outside and being in the garden and involved really has played a very important role with my kids. And I was always amazed, especially when we moved out here to the country and farmland. Even the kids who farmed and lived on farm, how they really didn't understand so much about gardening and home gardening, and they knew about the combines and all that type of thing. But it's been so neat over the years watching how school gardening programs have just exploded, and it's wonderful, to see a little greenhouse out here in the middle of farmland at an elementary school. It's pretty cool. Emily, could you tell us a little bit about your gardening program that you're involved with the kids, or?
Yeah, so it's one of those. So okay, where do I start? Because there's so many components to the program. I do my program based upon students and student interest as well as curriculum. And the garden that I run now has about 24 raised beds. So we're constantly raising food. We have 2 or 3 of those beds dedicated to a food bank. So anything the students grow is donated. And then we have 2 or 3 beds dedicated towards a farmer's market. So the 4th and 5th graders run a farmer's market. Where
so great.
I know, isn't that great?
That's so awesome.
What's really cool, you can imagine that we grow a decent amount of food, but it's not all ripening at the same time. It's not all ready for harvest at the same time.
Right.
And so what's really neat is that we also have a gleaning at the same time. So parents are encouraged to bring in anything that they have growing in their yards. And here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of fruit trees. And so it's often citrus or apples or plums, whatever might be in season. apricots, pomegranates, and parents bring in whatever they have growing that they can spare, and they add that to the farmer's market, and then that goes in to the table, and then anything the students make as far as money goes to a fund to a sister school. And so it's this full circle experience where the students come to the garden, they plant, and they harvest, which is the best part. And I usually pull a scale out so we can weigh the amount of produce that we're harvesting, and then they get to share that with their community, whether that be at the food bank or their farmers market. And then some of the other classes, I have them growing the Three Sisters beds, which very much ties into curriculum. As far as social studies, as well as food and food origins. And then we have salsa beds and pizza beds, and right now we're planting lots of root vegetables and onion sets and things where they can really see the roots of the plant or the bulb of the onion, and okay, this is where the roots come from, and here's the leaves, and hold on, you got to turn it around this way because otherwise it's not going to grow. And so it's sort of, it helps bring the things they're learning about seeds to life. So I'm going to keep going, so stop me now.
Well, I just have a couple of quick questions. One is, I know when I was working in the school, in the garden, there was a little bit of a difficulty just with the schedule as far as when school was in, and kids weren't around in the summer. I was wondering if you somehow continue that, you said like a salsa garden, through the summer, or do you, who tends the gardens in the summer, or how does that work?
Right, so we have some parent volunteers. I do go in at times. I am away a lot in the summer. I love to travel. But one of the things that I have the privilege or the flexibility to do, because we're in California and our growing season is pretty large, which I didn't always have actually in the mountains, which is only 3 hours away. But on the coast, I can fudge those boundaries where they say, oh, plant 8 weeks past the last frost or 12 weeks before the next frost. I have some wiggle room, and so I'll often plant things late so that they ripen and they're ready to pick, say, in September, so that they're not ready to pick in August when the students aren't there. So I kind of fudge that one, and that's really how I get around some of the summer issues. And then the fruit trees also play, that can be an important thing to think about, because you have rodents and things, rats. And if you have too much fruit fall when you're not there to pick it, that encourages that type of animal activity, and you're always going to have an issue like that, but it's never pretty in a school to have rats running around. The parents don't really like it very much. So there's that to think about. So I try to choose things like apricots ripen early, and apples ripen late, and pomegranates ripen late, and kiwis are spring. And so you just kind of think about a school garden a little bit differently than your home garden, because it does have to go untended for lengths of time, even during the school year. I sometimes will only go to the garden once or twice a week, and that's when I do my aerobic gardening, where I'm running around like a crazy person for as much time as I can. Okay, here we go. So, anyway.
I was wondering, Christy, if you have any opportunities to work with kids with what you're doing, or not?
Well, I'm. It's funny because I'm seeing a couple of questions that have come up here on the side. I'm like, I can answer those. I deal with mostly with adults, although I was involved with I wrote the gardening manual for the Woolly Pocket School Garden Program, which is a vertical gardening system for urban gardens on school campuses that don't have enough space for an actual garden. So I was involved with that for several years, and in my community garden, which sort of is kind of pointing in the direction of the urban agriculture question that Maggie has posed on this forum, is, everyone's bringing their kids to the garden, and there's always I always say, like, little kids, you know, the 3-year-olds and whatnot, they're either diggers or they're pullers, and you have to figure out which ones they are and work with them in that way. I've built gardens for kids. I had the pleasure of building a little tiny raised bed for a 1.5-year-old boy who had severe food allergies, and his parents wanted him to have a garden so that he could grow the stuff he could eat, and that was just like heartbreaking and sweet all at the same time. And I have a niece who's 8 years old, and she's pretty excited about, you know, growing stuff in her backyard with her mommy and daddy. So that's kind of, you know, going on. But most of the time, I'm usually working with adults, and they get very kid-like when learning how to garden. I have a lot of beginning gardeners in my classes at Santa Monica College, and when I go to people's houses and put gardens in for them, they are always excited, like kids, about, like, oh, this is going to turn into a plant, really? You know, and they get all excited about how lettuce seeds turn into heads of lettuce. It's a lot of fun.
That's
it's
awesome.
pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that how you said gardening lets the adults be kid-like.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat. I don't know if you're following our garden community on Twitter right now, but you guys are being streamed on a big screen TV at our friends at Plants Maps. They just tweeted a picture. Hi, Bill. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Bill and Tracy. I can't wait to meet you.
Excellent. Thanks.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Nice. So there's an urban agriculture question that I'd love to answer with Maggie, for Maggie Towson, because one of the things that I do here in Los Angeles, Zone 10B, we shifted from Zone 10A to 10B with the recent redoing of the USDA hardiness zone map. I'm tearing out people's front lawns, which are ridiculous to have in Los Angeles, and putting in vegetable gardens. So I've done that recently, 2 gardens last month, and a couple in, you know, recently. But moving urban agriculture, you know, veggie gardens to the front yard is really what's happening, because that's where people have their most, you know, sun exposure. So I'm really enjoying that, and the clients are really enjoying walking, you know, their neighbors walking by and going, ooh, what's that? It's very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that concept. I think that LA and maybe the East Bay are leading that charge of changing the way we think of our personal landscapes, including our front yard, and making them into these foodscapes. And it's making gardening trendy, which I think honestly, for so many people, that perception of gardening, just changing the perception of gardening, I think, is so key into getting people to garden, that it's a really cool thing to do, and your friends are going to think you're cool, and it's going to look great, and you're going to be contributing. You're going to be reducing the amount of water you use for something that's sort of essentially a desert and is useless, and you're going to be, you know, adding to your table. And I mean, the aesthetic of it is beautiful, and in so many ways, from your table to your front yard, that LA has something going on. LA, San Diego, both.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, especially now. The Los Angeles, well, city council, they just increased the turf removal rebate from $2 a square foot. Now it's up to $3.75 a square foot. So people are really getting decent money for tearing out their lawns and putting in something drought tolerant or native, and or, you know, annuals don't count, so they may subtract out veggie beds, but still you can put down decomposed granite and flagstone, and or, you know, mulch everything. That's the cheap route, cardboard and mulch, you know, and start growing some veggies, and you'll get some money from the city for that. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. So that's in town in LA? They actually, the government and the city, they're actually encouraging people to do this. They are.
And
that's cool.
And it's really exciting because the rebate, I mean, they'll run out of money eventually, but the fact that they're increasing the amount of money they're giving people is really interesting and motivating, I think, to a lot of residents.
I've heard of a few towns in the Midwest where some people actually get in trouble for planting in the city area. I wonder, do you know, is there a link, or have you written about this on your blog perhaps, where people could, find out more? Maybe they could go to a council meeting or something? And
well, in Los Angeles, it's SoCalWatersmart.com, I believe. It might be .org, but I think it's .com. And that has all the details on the various rebate programs that you can get, because you can get rebates for buying rain barrels and for replacing certain appliances. And I don't know if they're doing it yet for putting in gray water systems. That is our next frontier to tackle. But that's all of those kinds of innovations that we need so desperately to actually recharge the groundwater and our water tables and all of that is happening. So it's really a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is really that is fantastic. I hadn't actually heard about the, what is it called? Turf
removal rebate program.
Very good.
That's because you live in a place that isn't so ridden with drought.
I know. Well, yeah, right. You get rain up there, right, Adam?
Yeah. Well, we get about 20 inches a year, but we've been getting a lot in the last couple months, so we're good for now. I just want to do a quick shout out to a couple people that joined us on the Google Plus page. Mary Platis, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. She said, hello from rainy San Diego. And then she said, having taught for so many years, I love to incorporate a cooking cart with what we have grown and actually have a cooking class. And then she said, love the farmer's market idea, Emily Murphy. And Shelly Cuevas says, hi. So she was
Hi, Shelly.
Anyway, just want to give them a shout out. And then Tracy was wondering what zones you are in. So maybe really quick again, you're, let's see, well, we got LA was in 10B.
Yeah, 10B, yes.
And what's the...
Emily, where are you?
Yeah, I'm actually 10B as well, technically. But we have so many microclimates here. And then the mountains, it's technically 6B, but it functions more like 5A.
Wow. That's a big difference.
I was going to ask you. It's kind of like Seattle in a way, right? The same little micro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of microclimates. And what's funny is that my hometown, which is up north in Humboldt County, is also 10B. And it gets so much more rain than, say, LA or here. And it feels very different. So I think that we maybe need to revisit our hardiness zones.
I think so too. I mean, especially with the shift, climate change, shifting everything. We planted so late. It's December, and I'm still putting in gardens for people. And I would ordinarily never plant anything after Thanksgiving. And we're like, yeah, I think we could go a few more weeks,
Oh yeah, no, I'm still planting things. It's kind of crazy. It's like, oh, I have time. Kind of makes for a lazy gardener, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
You guys are pretty lucky. I'm in zone 5B, and we've already had a few days at 10, in the teens, and that kind of hit my little raised bed cover project. That didn't go very well, and so I want to ask you. So how do you grow year round? Like, what are you doing right now in your garden?
I grow year round. I grow fall crops, cool weather crops in the fall. So all of my beds are full of cover crops, brassicas, so broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale. I grow 6 different kinds of kale because that's my thing. And all the lettuces, like 14 different kinds of lettuces, arugula, mustard greens, and peas, and sweet peas, and garlic, and potatoes, and onions, and shallots, and all of those things. I grow in October. And then in the spring, I actually plant all the warm weather stuff, so beans, and the root vegetables I'm growing now too. So carrots, parsnips, beets, turnips, radishes, those are all on the ground now. And so in the spring, all the warm weather stuff goes in for me. Although we could do another round of cool weather stuff where I live. It's just that the brassicas get so full of aphids in the spring, I just don't bother with it anymore.
Yeah.
I just do it in the fall. You have the same experience, Emily?
Yeah, the aphids, they go for the kale especially.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, I'd rather just not try to do a second round. But I'm kind of growing the same things, which is amazing. I'm turning on more turnips this year. I'm like, turnips, yes, more beets. I'm determined to have a decent batch of pickled beets. But yeah, all the same things, you know, and any bed that, you know, so the beds that I have that are, say in the summer they grew heavy feeders like corn. I have cover crops. I grow a lot of fava beans because they're so easy to grow. I think everyone should grow fava beans. In fact, today I was out and the shopping mall near here, it's not a typical shopping mall. It has fava beans in one of its planters, like huge planters. Fava beans, like, yes, I love this.
Love it.
Love it.
It's like Tomorrowland at Disneyland. Tomorrowland planted all these veggies. I don't know if anyone even notices it, but if you're a gardener, you'll walk through there and you're like, they have peppers planted over there? You know, it's pretty cool.
Right. Someone is growing and eating those peppers at Disneyland.
Yeah, totally.
Well, one thing I can say about getting the cold weather, even my raised beds that were covered, no more aphids. And the kale is actually doing pretty well in the lettuce, surprisingly.
No, I completely agree. When the things I grow in the mountains, I mean, I have very few slugs, very few snails. Wow. And I honestly feel like while I love the opportunity to grow year-round like we have here, I've only lived in this area for a few years, I miss crops that experience real cold. I feel like heat with tomatoes, and I've written about this, like heat with tomatoes, cold weather just, it rounds out flavors, and like carrots never taste better if they've been grown through a cold snap, or you wait and you harvest them in February or March, and you have a real cold snap, a real frost, or like you are a 10-degree weather, and then you pull them later. The flavors are just so much better. I don't.
It's true. I have gardeners all the time who are like, why do my carrots taste like dirt? It's like, well, we don't get a frost, so they're going to. It's just kind of how it is. With our soil being the pH that it is, and the fact that we don't get it, you know, it's just how it is. And the other thing, Bren, that you have on us, and Adam as well, is that, you know, when we're growing year-round, we don't get to rest, and the soil doesn't get to rest. So, I mean, the cover crops are really important in that regard. So, you know, but I do, every once in a while, I wish, you know, like, God, I wish we had a winter where the soil could really rest.
Yeah, I've definitely found that, like, my broccoli and stuff is sweeter, Brussels sprouts, that sort of thing, with some good frosts and cold. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to do a couple more shout-outs to Elena Williams says hello, first time in Hangout, so we're thrilled to have her. And then Mary said, let's see, front yard gardening brings the neighbors, children, and postman together. That's quite an incentive, really. I have a Pinterest board, she says, with ideas for let's pull up our grass. So might want to check that out.
Hear, hear.
I know we're getting toward the end here, but I'm hoping you ladies can share a quick tip for someone who's new to gardening.
Oh.
You want to go first, Emily?
Start small. There's so many. I always say start small, and start by growing the one or two things you really love, and it could be that you want to supplement, say, your salad, and you don't expect to grow all of your greens for your salad. Maybe grow something that adds to your salad, a special type of mix or sprouts. But always just grow what you love. So even if it's not veggies and it's your favorite flower, grow your favorite flower, because it's going to make your life better.
That's a good one. And I'll add to that, in addition to start small, which is a fantastic idea, is fail big. Fail big, because that's how we learn how to garden. Make mistakes, don't be afraid to make them. And because that's how we learn, you know, we learn from our mistakes. So start small, fail big, happy gardening.
There you go. I think we just solved all the gardening problems of the world.
Right on.
Well, let's see, where can people find you, Emily, if they want to follow you or check out your blog?
You can find me at passthepistol.com. That's my website. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google+. I'm on Pinterest. Go to my Pinterest page. I love my Pinterest boards, and no one is looking at them. I can't believe it. They're my idea boards. There's so many great ideas on Pinterest. It's amazing. I'm on all those social networks, but find me on the web at passthepistol.com, and you'll find all the other links. I'd love to chat. I love comments and questions. So let's share. I'm ready for it.
Awesome. How about you, Christy?
You can find me at gardennerd.com. That's GARDENERD.com. And I, too, am on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and all of those things.
Awesome.
And those links are on the website. Also, I've got a YouTube channel, and my book is Gardening for Geeks, which you can find at gardeningforgeeksbook.com.
All right. Very good. Brenda, do you want to say any words about how people can find us?
Well, first of all, I want to say that's what I love most about both these gardeners and social media gurus is you can go to their website and you have all your links up there so we can find you on all the platforms. And you can follow Adam and I on Google if you're watching this live right now on the Google+. If you just click on our faces there, you can follow us and you'll see updates for upcoming Garden Chatter events. And so how about you, Adam? Are you excited about next week? I mean, tonight was awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat tonight.
Yeah.
Who's on next week?
That is to be announced. So stay tuned.
Super secret chat.
Super secret.
You'll have to follow us.
All
Cool.
right. Well, yeah, Emily and Christy, thank you so much for coming on. It was really a pleasure to talk with both of you. So.
Thanks
for having us. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We'll sign off with that.
Okay.
Nice to see everyone.